let's talk a bit about your transition into the ACL. I mean, as you mentioned, you've been there about 3.5 months now as the CEO, because obviously you mentioned you did work there previously in like a state-based role, but now back into this role, leading the whole organisation. And obviously, I guess, a transition from, Martyn Iles literally filling some very big shoes, because he's got some big shoes physically. But how has that gone? I mean, that must have been a really big transition. And I'm even thinking about the fact that, coming back from London, there was a lot of, things that you didn't even know about, that was going on in Australia over the last few years.
Yes, exactly. I had a lot to learn. And in the very first week that I arrived in Canberra, I started work straight away, and all of the state directors from around the country flew into Canberra to brief me on what had gone on in their states for the past 5 years. Firstly, it was great to meet the team. We have an incredible team at ACL, especially in the States, those who are state directors and were acting as state coordinators at the time. But they briefed me on all that had happened, and my heart broke with each story of what had gone on. We've gone downhill in a significant way in the last 5 years, really starting with the passing of same-sex marriage bill. That was before I left. But even with abortion being pushed out to late term in most states, euthanasia passing in most states, and we've just seen this real degradation of Christian values. And they saved the worst to last, which was Victoria. And I remember when Jasmine, our state director in Victoria, told me all that had happened. I was overwhelmed. I had no words at the end of what she'd let me know, because it really is tragic. And so the past 3 months has been coming up to speed, with the attacks on religious freedom as well, and all that's happened. And also doing these sorts of interviews and people wanting to know what my stand is or what my view is on the issues, but quickly having to read and understand what has actually happened before I could have something to say. But I don't really feel like I've come to fill big shoes or any that hasn't daunted me. What Martyn has done. I'm really appreciative of the grassroots base that Martyn has built. But I really believe that God's positioned me here because of the way and the strategy that I really believe that the Australian Christian lobby needs to operate in to continue to be fruitful and have tangible impact on public policy around the nation. So it's been a challenge in how to redirect on some things, but also I can see the benefit of the previous managing directors from Jim to Lyle to Martyn and now me, and how it's sort of set us up to continue to influence in a significant way.
Yeah, for sure. From an outsider, it seemed like a fairly sudden departure for Martyn to leave and then for you to jump in. Has that sort of been a bit unsettling, like for the supporter base from the ACL? How have you managed that side of things?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's questions, and people were wondering, and I know the board did their best to provide a statement in terms of their response to the sudden departure of Martyn. Ultimately, Martyn is a really fantastic spokesperson, and he articulates the issues really well, and that was his passion. However, we just needed as an organisation to be more politically engaged, to be in the Parliament, building relationships with the politicians and having a strategy when it comes to how we're going to affect public policy, because after all, we are a Christian lobby group. And so I think through my experience of having worked with ACL, but also under Jim Wallace's leadership but also having that experience in public policy, working for Nick Goiran and affecting the law, I think I bring that really sharp focus into how can we strategically wind back the bad laws that have already passed in Australia and put in some protective measures, especially around Christian freedoms.
We're chatting with Michelle Pearse today, the head of the Australian Christian Lobby.